like to call the meeting to order of this special city council meeting for November 12th, 2020. Roll call of aldermen, please.
Alderman Kinsella.
Here.
Alderman Hazel. Alderwoman Duco.
Here.
Alderman Pusa.
Here.
Alderman Randall. Alderman Randall. Alderman Ferguson.
Here.
Alderman Anthony.
Here.
Alderman Ovian.
Here.
Alderman Dentelman.
Here.
Alderwoman Schaefer.
Here.
Alderwoman Steele.
Here.
Alderman Rothweiler. Alderman Rothweiler. Alderman Elmore.
Here.
Alderman Weigand.
Here.
Alderman Wigington.
Here.
Alderman Barfield.
Here.
Let me try one more time for Alderman Hazel.
Here.
Thank you. Alderman Randall. Or Alderman Rothweiler. So I just have Randall and Rothweiler.
Okay. I did not request all staff to be on this meeting call. Let it be known, city clerk is here, myself, the city treasurer, city finance director, Jamie, and Scott, IT director, are here, and I believe Eric Schaster's on the phone. Eric, are you there?
Yes, sir, I'm here.
And Anissa, did you jump on or not? I didn't really ask that you had to. Okay, and did Garrett getting on?
Garrett should be, yes.
Garrett, are you there?
Yes,
Okay.
I am.
Okay, very good. So at this time, ladies and gentlemen, if you would be able and willing, join me in the Pledge of Allegiance.
Muted.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Unmuted.
Okay. This time,
Mayor?
yes. Hello?
It's Alderman Randall. I just,
Okay, Alderman Randall's on board. Okay,
Okay.
thank you. Okay, public participation. I don't know if anybody would have anything because we just called this meeting a couple days ago. Does anybody from the public have a question about the tonight's special meeting? Okay, hearing none, I'm going to close public participation and go to the administration's recommended motion. The motion is to approve a submittal of a local coronavirus urgent remediation, emergency, and economic support payments grants application, including the Belleville COVID-19 Business Recovery Program. If someone's willing to make a motion to approve this, then we'll have a discussion after we get the motion in a second. Do I hear a motion?
motion to approve.
Schaefer, second.
Schaefer, who made the motion originally?
Hazel.
Hazel and Schaefer. Okay, I thought it was Hazel, but I wanted to double check. Hazel made the motion, Schaefer seconded the motion. It's in your agenda, 6A1. At this time, before we go into open discussion, I'm going to ask Eric if you want to elaborate just a little bit, Eric. The staff and I, Jamie and Eric and Jenny and Garrett and several of us have been talking about this for a couple of weeks, I think it's fair to say, and then realized that there's a couple different deadlines, and if we would have waited until the next council meeting, we would have missed the Friday deadline And we just as soon want to get our chances in to see if we can capture some of these grant monies for our businesses as soon as possible. But it took us a little bit of little research and a little bit of time coordinating things amongst ourselves and getting the criteria and checking with some other places. So, Eric, you want to tell us anything at all before we get to any opening discussion?
Yes, sir. Thank you. So this is CARES Act money that's coming from the federal government through the state of Illinois, and they are getting it down to municipalities. They've actually distributed it on a regional level. So the Metro East is allotted about 2.1 million, and the formula they used was whatever they used for the local government distributive fund. So we intend on submitting an application for $150,000. And as the mayor alluded to, the reason for the meeting, the timing of this meeting is that the next deadline is tomorrow, and the next window after that is at the end of the month. So we wanted to get it in as soon as we could pull everything together. So I do appreciate your willingness to meet this evening. There's about a week and a half turnaround time on the grant application as well. So we should know by the end of the month if we are successful, and if we're not, the DCEO actually will provide feedback on how to make a stronger application. But so we hope to be able to provide grants of up to $5,000 for businesses in Belleville, and it's open to bars and restaurants, entertainment venues like movie theaters and event spaces, services like dry cleaning, salons, things like that, and retail and wholesale. We did open it up to what we call other, and in case there's another industry out there that we're not aware of the impact COVID has had on them, so we left it open to those businesses as well. To be eligible for the city's program, and this criteria is based on the federal guidelines as well as criteria from some other communities that are already doing this, and some that we created on our own. So they have to be a permanent year-round business in Belleville, in the city limits, 50 or fewer full-time equivalent employees, and a full-time equivalent employee, which is the same formula we use for our TIP program. It's a combination of 35 hours a week. So if you've got two part-time employees, that equals 35 hours. That's one full-time equivalent. The revenues of the business had to have been reduced more than 20% in any month starting in March of this year versus February. If they've received any other federal funding, COVID-related funding, they cannot use this money for those same expenses. So if they get the payroll protection, for example, they cannot apply to this program for payroll. There are other things they could use it for. They have to be a for-profit business. They can't have any tax liens, they can't be going through bankruptcy proceedings, and they cannot be a home-based business. They can use the money for payroll, operating expenses, lease payments, modifications they had to make in order to comply with the reopening, as well as inventory. It cannot be used for anything already reimbursed by any other program, capital improvements, taxes, personal expenses, damages that are covered by insurance, expenditures prohibited under the CARES Act, reimbursements to donors for their donated items. They can't pay for bonuses other than hazard pay or overtime. They can't pay for severance pay, legal settlements, or anything that's not reasonably incurred by COVID. So as I said, we're looking for grants of up to $5,000, and we've instituted a scoring criteria under 5 categories, and that's percentage of the revenues that they lost during the time, percentage of the business operations that were subject to a mandatory closure, the duration of that closure, the number of full-time equivalent employees, and the number of years in business. So they have to submit an application, the completed application, including the description of how they were affected by COVID, their latest tax returns, a W-9, bank statements showing their losses in revenue, bank statements from 2020, documentation of the expenses they're looking for reimbursement for. And then if they did receive other funding, they need to provide proof of that. So that's all included in their application to the city. So we will have a 3 to 5 person scoring team that will, or review team, I should say, that will review the applications. And that team is going to be made up of city staff and possibly 1 or 2 people from the outside that could have a business or finance background. If someone is currently in business, they would not be eligible to be on the team, or I'm sorry, if they're on the team, they can't apply for this program. We are not going to have any elected officials on here, no offense, but we wanted to keep it as objective as possible. So we'll review those applications. We intend on having, once we get approval from the state, we would then put this out to the public, and we would have a 2-week application window where we would accept the applications. We would not review any of them until that window is closed. That's to make it as fair for everybody as possible. We didn't want to have a rolling application of first come, first serve, because we wanted to avoid a situation where we gave out all the money and then the business that really could use it didn't get any assistance. So the number of grants that we would award and the amount of those grants, we don't know at this time, because it's going to be based on 3 things. The amount that we're approved for by the state, the number of applications that we receive, and how they score. So, and because we've never done anything like this before, we've got to kind of walk before we run a little bit. So we'll score those applications, and then, and then we'll determine how many we can provide and the amounts of those, and it'll be based on the scoring and the criteria. If there's any funding left after that 2-week window, which we don't anticipate, but if there's any left, then it would be a kind of a first come, first served basis. This is a reimbursement program, so the city has to front the money, and we do have it in the fund, in the general fund. But then once we start providing grants to businesses, we can then submit for reimbursement to the state, and their turnaround time is 4 to 5 days. So in theory, we submit our reimbursement request on Monday, and we're paid back by Friday. So that's a pretty quick turnaround. The money is already there. The state is just waiting to provide it. So I'd be happy to answer any questions. I do want to say thank you to the mayor and Jamie and Anissa and all the folks who provided input and guidance on this. It was very helpful in putting this program together. So I just want to thank you all for the help in putting this together. And if there's any questions, I'd be happy to answer them.
Do you have any questions for Eric? Anyone?
I have a couple questions. This is Elmore. So the comparison from March to November versus February, so it is strictly based on your February business books. It has nothing to do with January, December, November, whatever.
Right. It's going to get a baseline of what your revenues are and how much you may have lost since that time.
Okay. And home-based businesses, can you elaborate a little bit more on that? That's a little vague for my thinking, but I understand it's a judgment protocol that you're going through. I'm talking about somebody that maybe they are an interior house painter and they work out of their house, or a daycare, and they were told to shelter in place, so they no longer took in their clientele of children. I don't know. I didn't know how you're going to judge some of those things.
In a situation like that, we may look at under that other category. But if I have a landscaping business, for example, that I just operate out of my home, that I don't think would be an eligible business. Or if you run I don't know. But we're looking more at businesses that have a physical location in a home-based business, you don't have employees. If you have a home occupation certificate, you're not allowed to have customers or employees come to your home. An in-home daycare might be a little bit different situation. So that's where that would sit.
Anybody else have a question? I think, Eric, you did a real good job, and the staff we worked with, I think it took a couple days, couple meetings to talk through all these different, options and possibilities and things that we thought we'd run into. So we have a motion and we have a second to approve this so that I can sign the application and it can be sent off actually yet tonight by Eric, so that it gets there for tomorrow's filing deadline for this round. If there's no further questions, I'll call for a roll call vote. Roll call.
Kinsella,
Aye.
Hazel,
Aye.
Duco,
Aye.
Pusa,
Aye.
Randall,
Aye.
Ferguson,
Aye.
Anthony,
Aye.
Ovian,
Aye.
Dintelman,
Aye.
Schaefer,
Aye.
Steele,
Aye.
Elmore,
Aye.
Wygant,
Aye.
Wigington,
Aye.
Barfield.
Aye.
Motion carries.
Motion carries. I thank everybody for cooperating and getting on this call. That's all we have on the agenda. Do I hear a motion to adjourn?
Schaefer.
Schaefer,
Go. Steele.
Go.
Schaefer and Duco. Roll call for adjournment.
Hazel,
Aye.
Duco,
Aye.
Pusa,
Aye.
Randall,
Aye.
Ferguson,
Aye.
Anthony,
Aye.
Ovian,
Aye.
Dintelman,
Aye.
Schaefer,
Aye.
Steele,
Aye.
Elmore,
Aye.
Wygant,
Aye.
Wigington,
Aye.
Barfield,
Aye.
Kinsella.
Aye.
Motion's approved. We are adjourned. Thank you again for cooperating and calling in for this important topic. See you soon.